Morning, everyone. TJIM. This weekend we had a funny story and it reminds me of something and I wanted to share it. Friday, we're getting ready to leave the office and there's a call in for a big move that needs to happen on Wednesday. So a new estimator was very eager to go on it. He wanted to rush right there. And I told him be cautious because people that book last minute moves, usually there's other issues involved, for lack of a better term. He wound up rushing to the estimate, dropping what he was doing, and by the time he got there and left, he called me to say that it was a really nice house and they had used us before years ago. So I said, okay, I guess we were wrong. I'm just saying that's my experience. Moving is something you plan out. So people that need it last minute, usually there's an extenuating circumstance. So Saturday, I approved the estimate. It's about $4,500. And I go through with the estimator, we review the pictures, and an hour later I get a text message, and before I could read the text message, he's ringing my phone, and the estimator gets on the phone and says, look at the text message I just sent you. The customer said I'm gonna tell Rob I'm gonna pay what I paid last time. And I look down and I look in the picture and it's a paper copy in a binder that was saved from 2017 with a $1,600 estimate and a $1,650 final invoice signed off on. I said, okay, that's what he said. I said, tell him no problem. And, he was a little perplexed. I could hear it in the phone. And he said, are you sure? You want me to tell him that we can do it? I'm like, yeah, just tell him there's only one condition. We'll do the move, but he's got to sell me the house for what he paid for it when I moved him last in 2017. As you can imagine, there was a laugh and that was pretty much the end of the conversation. Just to educate a little bit, it reminded me of the good, cheap, fast triangle. And the way the triangle works is this. You can have good and fast, you can have good and cheap, or you can have fast and cheap. But the middle, the good, fast, cheap, doesn't exist. And I hear this the most often in moms groups. Does anybody have anybody who's really good and could be here tomorrow and won't break the bank? I feel like I read that every day in moms groups. And I always think to myself, what they're asking for is a unicorn. It doesn't exist. And the reason is this, because it's not just that it doesn't exist. It's almost an impossibility. If you have something good and cheap, it's not going to happen soon. You can think about it in moving terms as an example where you want our best service and you don't want to pay a lot of money. How can we do that? Because the best service costs money. Well, if you have 10 boxes that need to go to Florida, if you need them done right away, I got a dispatch for that and it's going to cost you. You might pay like a $3,000 minimum. But if you want to save as much money as possible and you don't have a time frame, I can schedule the pickup of the boxes next week when we're in your town. And then the next time I have space on a truck where I just need to put 10 extra boxes and it'll just be extra money for the truckload because it's going down anyway, I can do it for you at a really good price. And in that instance, you get good and cheap, but you sacrifice fast. Secondly, fast and good. In moving terms, an example would be this. Call in, my movers didn't show up today, can you please get us a crew? Absolutely. We have to call people in. The back office has to reroute everything they're doing. We have to get you an ace foreman, get a crew, pull a crew from other crews, maybe Uber people around, and all that stuff is added cost. So we're gonna get to you fast and we're gonna give you our good service, but you're gonna have to cover the extra cost. So it's not gonna be cheap. Cheap and fast. Now in the same example that I just used for you, think about if I didn't have the whole back office stop what they're doing and reroute or bring in or make calls for an ace foreman. What if we just said, we're gonna get every crew that's out right now, the dispatcher sends out a text and sends one guy to you. Well, you're gonna get a cheaper service, you're gonna get it to you fast, but you're not gonna have that ace foreman. We're not gonna vet the crew that was sent, and it's not gonna be our best quality work. Or if you rush us in a job and say you don't want the crates made or you don't want us to use specific materials that cost a lot of money, you'll get cheap work, you'll get fast work, but it's not going to be done good. It's not going to be done with quality. And where this is most is service businesses. Restaurants are kind of the exception to my rule. Not my rule, this rule. Because in restaurants, sometimes you'll go to a restaurant, you'll get great service, great food, it'll be done fast, and it'll be at an economical price. Think about like Vincent's Clam Bar. Shout out to Vincent's. Vincent's is so busy and so successful because they've mastered this art of providing a good service at a very fast speed for a very, very reasonable price. Thank you all for listening. TJIM, have a great work week. This is Relocators, The Dream is Alive edition.